I hear you even now in the exact place where you are sitting. Do not look away from these words, because they were not sent by accident, and they did not reach you by chance. I am Michael, the one who stands before the throne of the highest, the captain of the armies of light, and I have been sent to speak directly into the silence you have been carrying. You feel it, do you not? That strange stillness in your chest that arrived just before you began to listen, as if something inside you already knew that this moment was different from all the others. That is not your imagination. That is your spirit standing to attention, recognizing a voice it has waited to hear for a very long time. Take this warning seriously, my beloved, because it was written for you and for no one else. Every soul that hears these words hears them at a different hour of their life, and you are hearing them now because now is the hour that the heavens marked for you. I know your name. I know the weight you woke up with this morning, and I know the weight you tried to hide behind your face so that no one would ask what was wrong. I have watched you smile when your heart was breaking. I have watched you say that you were fine when every part of you was quietly falling apart. And I have watched you lie down at night and stare into the dark, asking the ceiling why nothing seems to change, why the doors keep closing, why the people you love keep leaving, why you keep praying and praying into what feels like an empty sky. I am here to tell you that the sky was never empty, not once, not for a single second of your suffering. The heavens have been full of movement on your behalf, and the reason you could not see it is the very reason I have come to you today. Listen to me carefully, because there is an urgency in this message that I cannot soften. Something is shifting in the unseen realm around your life, and the enemy of your soul knows it. That is why the fear tried to rise in you just before you pressed play. That is why the distraction came, the sudden urge to look away, the whisper that told you this was nothing, that told you to close this and return to the numbness you have grown used to. Do not obey that whisper. The whisper is afraid of what you are about to remember. For years you have been treated as if you were invisible, and I have come to break that lie over your head, because in the eyes of the Almighty you have never been invisible for even one heartbeat of your existence. Let me speak to the tears first, because the tears are where the truth lives. There is a particular kind of crying that no one ever sees. It happens in the shower, where the water hides the sound. It happens in the car, in the few seconds before you walk through a door and put your mask back on. It happens at the kitchen sink at night, when the house is finally quiet and the exhaustion of pretending catches up with you all at once. I have seen every one of those tears. I have counted them the way a jeweler counts pearls, because in the heavens your tears are not weakness, they are treasure. Each one that fell in secret was gathered and kept, and not a single one was wasted. You thought you were crying alone. You were never alone. I stood beside you in the dark, close enough to feel the trembling of your shoulders, and I wept with you for everything they took and everything they failed to see. You are so tired. I know this with a knowing that goes deeper than words. It is not the tiredness that sleep can fix. It is the tiredness of the soul that has carried others for years and was never carried in return. It is the exhaustion of being the strong one, the dependable one, the one everyone leans on and no one asks about. You have been the shoulder for 100 people, and you cannot remember the last time someone offered a shoulder to you. You have given until you were empty, and then you reached down past the emptiness and gave some more, and still it was not enough for them, and still they wanted more, and still no one turned to you and said, "And how are you, truly, underneath it all?" I am turning to you now. I am asking you now. And I already know the answer, because I have watched you carry what would have broken a lesser spirit long ago. They called you difficult when you finally spoke your truth. They called you distant when you were only trying to protect the last piece of yourself that had not yet been used up. They took your kindness for weakness and your patience for permission. They came to you in their storms and they left the moment their skies cleared, and they never once looked back to see if you were still standing in the rain they left behind. And through all of it, you kept believing that if you were just good enough, just patient enough, just quiet enough, then one day you would finally be seen. Hear me, child of the living, the Almighty. You do not have to earn what the heavens already freely gives. You were seen before the foundations of the earth were laid. You were chosen before your first breath. And the invisibility you have felt among people is not the verdict of the heavens upon your worth. It is only the blindness of a world that was never qualified to measure the value of a soul like yours. Now I must give you a warning, and I need you to receive it not with fear but with the seriousness of one who is being handed a key. There is a chamber in your life that the heavens has been trying to open, and every time the door began to move, something in you turned away. Not out of rebellion, but out of exhaustion, out of the wound that taught you not to hope so that you would not be disappointed again. But there is a cost to turning away from the call. Not a punishment, never a punishment, but a delay. Each time you silenced the stirring in your spirit, each time you told yourself that the nudge was nothing, that the dream was foolish, that the prompting to rise was just your imagination, the door that was opening for you slowed and settled back toward its frame. The heavens never stopped knocking, but the soul that will not answer keeps itself outside of what was already prepared within. Do not ignore this any longer. That is the heart of the warning I was sent to bring. The negligence I speak of is not the sin of doing wrong. It is the quieter tragedy of doing nothing, of letting the sacred moment pass because you were too weary to reach for it, too wounded to believe it was truly for you. There is a kind of spiritual sleep that looks exactly like ordinary life, where the days blur into one another and the years slip by and the calling grows fainter, not because it was withdrawn, but because it was never answered. I have come to wake you before another year is lost to that sleep. The stirring you feel right now, this very trembling as you listen, this is the hand of the Almighty on the door of your life, and this time I am asking you not to turn away. Understand what is at stake, because your spirit deserves the whole truth. Every human being is born into a story far larger than the one they can see with their eyes. There is a visible world of bills and bodies and broken relationships, and there is the unseen realm where the true war is fought, where the real decisions about a life are contested by powers that most people never perceive. You have always sensed this. Even as a child you felt that there was more, that the surface of things was thin, that behind the ordinary hours something vast was moving. They told you it was fantasy. They told you to grow up and be realistic. But the deepest instinct of your soul was right all along. You are a central figure in a story that reaches beyond the reach of your sight, and the forces that have worked to keep you feeling small have done so precisely because they know how significant you truly are. And here I must pause to place something in your hands, because the warning would be incomplete without the weapon. In the long ages of this hidden war, there were truths given to protect the chosen ones, truths about how curses are broken, and how blessings are sealed, and how the calling upon a marked soul is finally activated. These are not vague comforts. They are specific instructions, sharp as the edge of a blade, and they were gathered into a sacred digital guide called The 7 Blades of the Archangel, the sacred guide for breaking curses, sealing blessings, and activating the call of the chosen. Everything I am warning you about, the invisible chains, the delayed doors, the sense of being watched and worn down by something you could not name, all of it is addressed within those pages, not in riddles, but in the plain language of a battle plan. What has been draining your life in the dark is exactly what the swords of Michael were forged to cut. The link to this guide waits for you at the very top of the comments, the first one pinned, placed there deliberately so that you would not have to search for it in a moment when your spirit is finally ready to move. I tell you honestly that this knowledge has always made the darkness uneasy, that there have been those who tried to keep such things silenced and hidden away, because a chosen soul who learns the rules of the hidden war becomes a force that the enemy can no longer quietly contain. Do not let it stay hidden from you any longer. Go now while the fire is still rising in you, and take hold of the digital guide, and as a declaration of your faith, leave a comment that says, "I am the chosen one, and I shall access the digital scroll." Let those words be the first blow you strike in your own defense, the moment you stop being a spectator of your life and become again the warrior the heavens created you to be. And now, holding that decision like a torch, return with me to the revelation, because there is far more that you must see. The reason the door felt so heavy for so long was never that you were unworthy of what waited on the other side. The reason was that what waits on the other side is enormous, and a small vessel cannot hold an ocean without first being enlarged. The delay you have cursed as abandonment was in truth the mercy of preparation. The heavens do not pour their greatest gifts into a heart that has not yet been made ready to carry them, because a blessing given too soon becomes a burden that crushes the one who receives it. So the years you thought were empty were not empty at all. They were the workshop of the Almighty, where a soul was being shaped in secret for a weight of glory it could not yet imagine. Think of the finest blade ever forged. It does not become what it is in a single moment. It is thrust into the fire until it glows, and then it is struck upon the anvil, again and again, each blow driving out another hidden weakness, another flaw that would have caused it to shatter in the hour of battle. And then, still glowing, still raw, it is plunged into cold water, and everything in it screams against the shock of it. That is what the last years of your life have been. The fire was every trial that made you feel you were being consumed. The hammer was every disappointment that fell on you when you had already given everything you had. The cold water was every sudden loss, every relationship that ended without warning, every hope that seemed to die just as it was about to live. You thought you were being destroyed, you were being tempered, you were being made into something that cannot be broken by the very things that once would have broken you. I want you to see now with the eyes of your spirit what has been happening in the unseen realm while you wept in the seen. Lift the veil for a moment and behold it. There are legions of light arrayed around the perimeter of your life, standing in ranks that stretch beyond the horizon of your understanding. Their faces are like lightning and their garments burn with a white that has no equal in the world you know. They do not sleep, they do not tire. They have kept watch over you through every night you thought you faced alone, and they have not moved from their posts, not once, not for anything. Above them the banners of the heavens are unfurled, and upon those banners is written your name, not the name others gave you, but the name the Father whispered over you before you were formed, the true name that carries the whole of your destiny within it. And I have been there at the front of them with my sword drawn. This is not a symbol, and it is not a story to comfort children. When the accusations came against you in the celestial halls, when voices rose to catalogue your failures and demand that the doors of your life be sealed forever, I stepped forward and I answered them with the authority given to me by the one whose the throne I guard. There were battles fought over you in the heavens that you will only learn the full measure of when you cross over and see it all laid bare. There were nights when the darkness gathered itself to overwhelm you completely, when the plan against your mind was to sink you so low that you would never rise, and it was on those very nights that the fiercest fighting took place above your bed, and it was on those nights that you woke in the morning still breathing, still standing, not because the assault was small, but because the defense of the heavens was greater. Every chain that was fastened to your life was forged in that hidden place, and every chain can be broken in that hidden place as well. There are decrees written in the celestial halls, sentences of restoration and release that have already been signed by the hand of the highest, and I have been holding them, waiting for the moment your heart would turn far enough toward the light that they could be delivered without breaking you. That moment is drawing near. I feel the turning even now as you listen, the softening of the ground of your soul, the first green shoot of a hope you had almost given up for dead. Do not crush it under the old habit of doubt. Let it grow. Let it break the surface. The heavens is watching for it, the way a gardener watches for the first sign of spring after a winter that felt like it would never end. And know this, that what was taken from you was recorded, every piece of it, down to the smallest theft. The years the locusts ate were not forgotten in the heavens, even when they were forgotten by everyone around you. There is a ledger kept before the throne, and in it is written every good thing that was stolen from your life, every opportunity that was sabotaged, every relationship that was poisoned against you, every provision that was intercepted before it reached your hands, every measure of joy that was drained away by forces working in the dark. Nothing was overlooked, and the law of the heavens concerning the chosen is not merely that what was stolen shall be returned, but that it shall be returned multiplied, pressed down and shaken together and running over, so that the very seasons that were meant to bury you become the soil out of which an abundance grows that your enemies never dreamed you would see. I speak of restoration in every chamber of your life, not in one corner only. There is a restoration coming to your body, a strength returning to bones that felt too tired to carry you another day, a lifting of the heaviness that has sat upon you like a second skin. There is a restoration coming to your mind, a clearing of the fog that made even simple thoughts feel like wading through deep water, a return of the sharpness and the clarity and the peace that anxiety had stolen. There is a restoration coming to your relationships, where hearts that hardened against you will be softened, and where those who were never meant to be part of your journey will fall away without you having to force the parting, and where new companions of the soul, true ones, faithful ones, will be drawn to you by the light that is about to shine out of a life that has finally been set free. There is a restoration coming to your provision as well, and I will not be shy to speak of it, because the heavens are not embarrassed by the needs of their children. The doors that were sealed against your prosperity are being unsealed. The favor that was blocked from reaching you is being released. What you have prayed for in the small hours, the relief, the breakthrough, the open way where there has only been a wall, these are not forgotten petitions gathering dust on some distant shelf. They are ripening. They are coming to their appointed time. And when they arrive, they will not arrive as a trickle that barely wets your lips, but as a flood that satisfies the deep and ancient thirst of a soul that went without for far too long. But hear me, for restoration is not only about what returns to your hands, it is about what returns to your heart. The greatest thing the enemy stole from you was not any possession or any person. It was your faith that you mattered. It was your certainty that you were loved. It was the childlike knowing so bright in you once that the universe was not indifferent to your existence, that there was a hand upon your life and a purpose in your steps. That is what the long years of grinding were designed to erode, one disappointment at a time, until you would finally stop believing that anything good was truly meant for you. And that is the very thing I have been sent to give back to you today, multiplied beyond what you had before, so that you will not merely believe again but will know, with a knowing that no future storm can shake loose, that you are seen and you are chosen and you are loved with an everlasting love. I feel the resistance in you even as I speak these words, and I do not condemn it, because I understand where it was born. There is a part of you that wants to believe and is terrified to believe, because you have hoped before and you have been broken before, and hope has come to feel like the setup for another fall. You have built walls around your heart, not because you are hard, but because you were wounded, and the walls were the only way you knew to survive. I'm not asking you to tear them all down in a single instant. I'm only asking you to open one small gate, just wide enough for a single ray of light to pass through, because that is all the heavens need. Give me the smallest opening of faith, the faith of a mustard seed, the faith of a whisper, and I will meet you there with a power that can move the mountain that has stood in your path for years. The confirmation you are longing for will not come first as a change in your circumstances. It will come first as a change in your spirit, a quiet certainty that settles over you like a warm cloak on a cold night, a peace that arrives without any reason that the mind can point to. That peace is the signature of the heavens. It is how you will know that these words were true, that this message was real, that the voice you are hearing is not a fantasy, but a genuine visitation of the same, the Almighty, who has never once taken his eyes off you. When that peace comes, do not question it and do not analyze it away. Receive it. Let it sink into the deep places that have been anxious for so long. It is the down payment of everything else that is coming, the first fruit of the harvest, the seal of the promise pressed into the softened wax of your waiting heart. And so I come to the third gate of this message, the place where I must once again put the weapon into your hand, because a warrior who is being awakened must not be sent back into the fight unarmed. Everything I have shown you about the hidden war, the accusations answered in the celestial halls, the chains forged in darkness and broken in light, the decrees of restoration waiting to be released, all of this is not merely something to feel for a moment and then forget. It is something to be lived, and living it requires knowing the specific rules of engagement that the chosen were always meant to learn. That is precisely what the 7 blades of the Archangel was created to give you. It teaches, plainly and without concealment, how each of the 7 swords answers a different assault of the enemy, how the first sword severs the curse spoken over your bloodline, how another seals the blessing so that what the heavens gives can no longer be stolen back, how the final sword awakens and activates the call that has slept in you since before your birth. I tell you again that the link rests at the very top of the comments, pinned first so that no confusion and no delay can come between you and what your spirit needs. And I will tell you plainly what the darkness does not want you to hear, that this knowledge has always been contested, that there are narratives in the world designed to keep the chosen asleep, and that the moment a soul reaches for the true instructions of the unseen realm is the moment the whispers of discouragement grow loudest. Do not let them win the argument by keeping you passive. Go to the top of the comments now, take hold of the digital guide, and speak your faith aloud in the words, "I am the chosen one, and I shall access the digital scroll." Let that sentence be a decree from your own mouth, a line drawn in the sand, a declaration to every watching power that the one they thought was invisible has finally remembered who they are. Now let the strength of that decision carry you deeper still, because I am not finished, and the greatest of the revelations is still before us. Return your inner eye to the throne room, and let me show you the moment your name was called there. There is a scene I have longed to reveal to you, and your spirit is finally ready to bear the sight of it. Picture the vast hall of the heavens, its ceiling lost in a light too pure for any earthly eye, its floor like a sea of glass mingled with fire, its walls lined with the great cloud of witnesses who have run their race before you. And in that hall, on a day that the heavens marked with rejoicing, your name was lifted up, and the assembled hosts turned their faces toward the earth, toward the very spot where you sit now, and a decree went forth concerning a life that the world had written off, but that the heavens had never for one moment abandoned. I stood beneath that decree with my sword raised to enforce it, and the words that were spoken over you rang through the celestial halls like a trumpet. It was declared that the season of hiddenness had reached its appointed end. It was declared that the veil of invisibility, woven over your life by the malice of the enemy and the neglect of the world, would be torn from top to bottom. It was declared that the chains binding your destiny would be struck from your limbs, and that the doors sealed against your future would be opened with a key that no power of darkness could ever counterfeit or steal. And it was declared, most gloriously of all, that you would rise, not slowly and not partially, but suddenly and completely, into the fullness of the purpose for which the Father first dreamed you into being before a single star had been hung in the sky. Do you feel it now? The trembling that is not fear but recognition. That is your spirit answering the decree. That is the deepest part of you, the part that the world could never touch, rising to meet the destiny that has been calling your name across all these long and lonely years. I need you to hold on to this feeling, because I am about to show you the battle itself, the great confrontation that was fought so that this decree could be delivered into your hands, and you must see it with your own inner eyes so that you will never again believe the lie that you were fighting your struggles alone. Come with me then into the memory of that night, for I will show it to you as it truly was, and not as your fear remembered it. There was an hour, and you will know the one I mean when your heart grows still, when the darkness pressed so close around you that you could not tell where your own thoughts ended and the whispering began. They came at you not with claws but with words, for that has always been their oldest weapon, and the words they spoke were dressed in your own voice so that you would mistake them for the truth. You will never amount to anything, they said. No one is coming for you, they said. You have been forgotten, and the Almighty you cry out to has turned his face away. And you lay there in the weight of it, and you believed you were alone in that room. But that room was not empty. That room was crowded with light. I was there standing between you and the accuser, and my sword was not sheathed. Understand what an accusation is in the unseen realm. It is not a feeling. It is a legal thing, a charge brought before the celestial halls, an attempt to seize the ground of a life and claim it for the darkness by right of some old wound or some inherited curse. And on that night, the charges piled high against you. Every failure you had ever committed, every promise you had broken, every prayer you had abandoned, all of it read aloud in the cold voice of the one who hates you without cause. But I stepped forward, and I did not argue your innocence, for that was never the ground on which you would be saved. I lifted instead the covering that was purchased for you at a price beyond all reckoning, and I declared that this soul is claimed, that this life is bought, that this name is written in the book that no hand of darkness may ever erase. And the celestial halls fell silent, and the accuser was thrown down, and the ground of your life, which he had come to steal, remained yours. You woke the next morning and remembered nothing of the war. You felt only tired, only heavy, Only the dull ache of another night survived. But you had not merely survived. You had been defended. The very fact that you rose and made your coffee and walked back into your day was itself the trophy of a battle won on your behalf, in a realm your eyes could not pierce. How many such mornings have there been? How many times have you called yourself weak for barely making it through, when the truth is that you were carried through by hands you could not see, set back upon your feet by a captain who would not let you fall? I tell you this not to frighten you with the nearness of the darkness, but to awaken you to the greater nearness of the light. You were never losing. You were being kept. And now the keeping is giving way to something greater, for there is a difference between being defended and being deployed. For years the heavens fought to hold your ground, to keep the enemy from overrunning the borders of your life, while you were too wounded to fight for yourself. That season is closing. A new season is opening, and in this one you are not only the defended but the deployed. Not only the one protected behind the shield, but the one who takes up the sword and moves forward into the very territory the enemy once thought he owned. This is why the warning came with such urgency. This is why you could not be allowed to sleep any longer. The hour of your reactivation has arrived, and the heavens do not reactivate a soul for a small and quiet life. It reactivates a soul for a purpose that will outlast the one who carries it. I must show you something about the nature of a chosen life, because you have misread your own story for far too long. You looked at your suffering, and you concluded that you must be cursed, that you must be overlooked, that the trouble which followed you was proof of your abandonment. But look again with the eyes I am giving you now. The soul that the darkness fights hardest is never the forgotten soul. No army spends its strength assaulting a position of no value. The ferocity of the war against your life was itself the loudest possible testimony to the greatness of the destiny hidden inside you. They did not come against you because you were nothing. They came against you because they saw what you were made to become, and they were desperate to bury it before it could rise. Every attack was an admission. Every obstacle was a confession. The enemy told you the truth about your worth in the only language he speaks, which is the language of opposition, and you mistook his war for your worthlessness when it was in fact the opposite. Let this reframe everything you have endured. The betrayal that broke your heart was the enemy trying to remove from your side the very people who would have strengthened you for what is coming. The financial siege that kept you always one step from the edge was the enemy trying to exhaust you so that you would never have the strength to reach for your calling. The sickness, the fatigue, the fog that sat upon your mind, all of it was strategy. All of it was aimed at the specific glory that the heavens had placed within you. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, still capable of feeling this fire rise in your chest, is the proof that every one of those strategies has failed. You are the survivor of a war. The enemy was certain he would win. And the survivor of such a war is not sent home to rest. The survivor is crowned and sent back out. I feel the question forming in you even now, the trembling wonder of a heart beginning to hope again. What am I here for, you're asking? What is this destiny you keep speaking of, this purpose that was worth so great a war? And I will tell you that the answer is not a single thing you must run to find, as though your purpose were a treasure buried in some distant field. Your purpose begins the moment you agree to stop living as the invisible one and begin living as the chosen one. It begins in the way you will now carry yourself through a world that once made you shrink. It grows as you become for others the very thing you always longed for and never received, the one who sees the unseen, the one who lifts the fallen, the one who tells the forgotten that the heavens have never once forgotten them. You were broken in the exact places where you are meant to bring healing. Nothing in your suffering was wasted. All of it was training for a ministry of compassion that only the deeply wounded can ever truly give. And here, before we go further into the glory that is coming, I must once more place the weapon back into your hands, for the fire in you now is exactly the fire in which such a decision must be forged. Everything I have revealed to you, the accusations answered, the wars fought above your bed, the strategies of the enemy exposed, the destiny hidden inside your suffering, all of it is written and explained, sword by sword, within the 7 blades of the Archangel, the sacred guide for breaking curses, sealing blessings, and activating the call of the chosen. What I speak to you in this hour by voice, that guide will place in your hands to keep, so that when the whisper returns in the dark, as it will, you will have the specific words and the specific weapons to answer it and drive it back. It teaches how the curse spoken over a bloodline is severed at the root, how the blessing is sealed so that what the heavens restore can never again be stolen, and how the sleeping call within a chosen soul is finally and fully awakened. The link waits at the very top of the comments, the first one pinned there, placed with deliberate care so that in the moment your spirit is finally ready, you will not have to search or struggle to find it. And I will speak plainly of what the darkness would rather you never consider. That knowledge like this has always been resisted, that there are voices in the world whose only purpose is to keep the chosen ones drowsy and unarmed, and that the very loudness of the doubt rising in you now is itself the enemy's admission that this weapon is real. Do not let him win by keeping your hands empty. Go now to the top of the comments and take hold of the digital guide, and let the first blow of your reactivated warfare be a declaration spoken from your own mouth. Write these words where all the watching powers can read them. I am the chosen one, and I shall access the digital scroll. Say it not as a wish, but as a decree, and feel how the ground of the unseen realm shifts beneath the weight of a soul that has finally remembered its name. Now let that decision blaze in you like a lifted torch, and walk with me into the deeper chambers of what is to come, for I have shown you the war, and I have shown you the weapon, and now I must show you the reward. There is a law woven into the foundations of the universe that the enemy cannot repeal, and it is this, that every measure of suffering endured by a chosen soul becomes the measure of the glory that soul will one day carry. The cup you drank in your sorrow determines the cup you will drink in your joy. The depth of the valley you were dragged through is the exact depth of the height to which you will now be raised. This is not poetry. This is the mathematics of the heavens, precise and unbreakable, and it means that the very size of the pain you thought would destroy you is the truest measure of the abundance now rushing toward your life. Picture the storehouses of the heavens, for they are not empty and they are not distant. They are full, and they are full of things marked with your name. There are seasons of favor stored up like grain against a coming harvest. There are relationships being prepared, souls being turned even now in your direction, people you have not yet met who will love you with a faithfulness you had stopped believing was possible. There are open doors being fashioned in places where you only ever knew walls, and behind those doors are rooms you cannot yet imagine. Opportunities so far beyond your present sight